My girlfriend used our anniversary trip to meet up with her ex, so I canceled her return ticket. Before we dive in, just a small favor. If you like stories filled with drama, twists, and real emotion, hit that subscribe button and support the channel. That way, you'll never miss out on content that keeps you hooked. I'm a 30-year-old male, and I've always been the kind of guy who values loyalty and trust above all else in a relationship. I work a steady job as a financial analyst, and while I'm not flashy, I enjoy treating the people I care about to nice things. That's why when my girlfriend, let's call her G, and I reached our 2-year anniversary, I decided to go all out. I booked a week-long trip to a picturesque coastal town, complete with a luxury hotel and reservations at some of the finest restaurants in the area. G was thrilled when I told her about the trip, or so I thought. She gushed about how romantic it was and how lucky she felt to have someone like me, but looking back, there were little signs. I should have noticed the way she seemed more excited about taking Instagram photos than spending time with me, the subtle way she steered conversations back to her needs and wants. It all hinted at something deeper, but I ignored it, chalking it up to her personality. That was my mistake. The trip started off perfectly. We arrived at the hotel and G was practically glowing as she snapped pictures of the room, the view, and the welcome champagne. The first couple of days were wonderful. We explored the town, relaxed on the beach, and indulged in the kind of meals you dream about. But then, on the third night, things took a turn. We had just finished dinner when G mentioned she wanted to check out a nearby boutique. The next morning I saw online that they have some exclusive designer pieces, she said, her eyes lighting up. It's the kind of place I'd never get to shop at back home. Sure, I said, smiling. We can swing by before we hit the boardwalk. She hesitated for a moment and then added, actually, I was thinking of going alone. You don't have to come. I know shopping's not really your thing. That struck me as odd. We'd been doing everything together on this trip, so why suddenly the need for alone time? Still, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. Alright, I said, just let me know when you're heading out. The next morning, G left the hotel early, claiming she wanted to get to the boutique before it got crowded. I stayed back, planning to catch up on some emails and enjoy a leisurely breakfast, but as the hours ticked by, I started to feel uneasy. G hadn't texted or called, which was unusual for her. She loved to update me on her every move, especially when she was shopping around noon. I decided to take a walk and grab some coffee. That's when I saw her sitting on the patio of a small cafe, laughing and leaning in close to a man I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped. They were too far away for me to hear their conversation, but the body language was unmistakable. She looked relaxed, flirtatious, completely at ease. I stood there for a moment, debating whether to confront her right then and there, but something told me to hold off. Instead, I pulled out my phone and snapped a couple of pictures. If she was going to lie to me, I wanted proof. I walked away from the cafe with my mind racing. Who is this guy? How long had this been going on? And more importantly, why was she doing this on a trip I had planned for us, using my money? A wave of anger surged through me, but I forced myself to stay calm. If G was bold enough to meet up with another man during our anniversary trip, I needed to be smart about how I handled it. When she returned to the hotel a few hours later, she acted like nothing had happened. She breezed into the room with shopping bags in hand and flashed me a bright smile. I found the cutest dress, she said, holding up a bag. You're going to love it. I nodded, keeping my tone neutral. Looks like you had a good time. I did, she said, oblivious to the edge in my voice. The boutique was amazing. And the cafe? I asked, watching her reaction closely. Her smile faltered for a split second before she quickly recovered. Oh, I just stopped for coffee. It was a long walk. Alone? I pressed further. She hesitated and laughed nervously. Of course, who else would I be with? Her lie confirmed everything. I didn't say anything else, but inside I was seething. She was so comfortable lying to my face that I wondered how many other times she had done it. Instead of confronting her right away, I decided to let her dig her own grave. The next couple of days were awkward. G seemed to sense that something was off, but I didn't give her any indication of what I knew. I kept things civil, even planning a nice dinner for our last night in town. She was back to her bubbly self, likely assuming I hadn't caught on to her antics. That night at dinner, she started talking about the future, dropping hints about how we should start thinking about combining finances before getting married. It just makes sense, she said, twirling her wine glass. We're going to be a team, right? I smiled and nodded, playing along of course. Little did she know, I'd already made up my mind about what was coming next. The morning of our departure, I woke up early and quietly gathered my things. G was still asleep, so I slipped out of the room and headed to the front desk. I informed the staff that I'd be checking out early and paid the remaining balance on the room. Then I opened my airline app and canceled Ji's return ticket. It felt cold, but after what she'd done, I felt no obligation to make her life easier. Feel free to let me know if you need any further assistance. As I walked back into the room, she was just starting to stir. She smiled groggily. Morning. What time are we leaving? I've already checked out, I said, keeping my tone casual. But I'll be heading to the airport on my own. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her the pictures I'd taken at the cafe. Recognize this? Her face went pale. I can explain, she stammered. I'm sure you can, I said, grabbing my bag. But I don't care to hear it. Enjoy your time with him. Ji's reaction was immediate and chaotic. She bolted out of bed, her face contorted with panic. Wait, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like. She pleaded, stepping toward me. I stood my ground, keeping my voice calm. Really? Because it looks like you used the trip I planned and paid for to meet up with your ex. Did I miss something? She opened her mouth to respond but hesitated, clearly trying to come up with an excuse. Hyun's just a friend, she finally said, her voice shaky. I wanted to catch up while we were here, that's all. A friend? I repeated, holding up my phone. Because you looked awfully cozy for just catching up. Her eyes darted to the door, then back to me. I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. I let out a bitter laugh. You didn't know how? How about you just don't cheat on someone who's done nothing but treat you with respect? Her panic turned to anger. Cheating? You're being ridiculous. I didn't even do anything. Do you think I'm an idiot? I snapped. I overheard your conversation with him at the cafe. You were laughing about how easy it was to slip away and how you'd make it up to him later. Don't insult me by pretending it was innocent. Her face turned red, a mix of shame and fury. So you were spying on me? I shook my head. No, I wasn't. But I caught you in the act, and now you're going to deal with the consequences. She froze, realizing the gravity of the situation. What do you mean? I canceled your ticket, I said bluntly. You're on your own. Her jaw dropped. You what? You heard me, I said, slinging my bag over my shoulder. You can figure out how to get back home. Maybe your friend will help you. I'm done. She lunged for my arm, desperation in her voice. You can't just leave me? How am I supposed to get home? That's not my problem anymore, I said, pulling away from her grasp. You made your choices. Now you get to live with them. As I walked out of the room, she followed me into the hallway, her voice rising. You're overreacting. This is insane. I didn't even do anything wrong. I turned to face her one last time. You didn't just betray me. You disrespected everything I've done for you. For us. You're not sorry for what you did. You're sorry you got caught. Goodbye. With that, I walked away, leaving her standing there in disbelief. The elevator doors closed, cutting off the sound of her protests at the airport. I felt a strange sense of peace. Sure, I was angry, and part of me was still reeling from the betrayal. But another part of me felt lighter, freer. I dodged a bullet and I knew it. When I landed back home, I turned on my phone to a flood of messages from Ji. The tone of her text swung wildly from pleading to angry to outright accusatory. You're being so unfair, one message read. I didn't deserve this humiliation. Another said, please I'll explain everything. I made a mistake, but I still love you. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the pictures and details of what happened to a couple of mutual friends who were bound to ask questions once Ji started spinning her version of the story. Sure enough, a few of them reached out, shocked and apologetic. I can't believe she did that. You don't deserve someone like her. No, I don't, I agreed. And that's why I'm moving on. A few days later, Ji managed to get back home, though I didn't bother to ask how. She tried one last time to reach me, showing up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, but only enough to make it clear I wasn't inviting her in. Please, just give me 5 minutes, she said, her voice trembling. I'm sorry for everything. I was stupid. I wasn't thinking. I'll do anything to make it up to you. I stared at her, the sincerity in her voice almost convincing. But then I remembered how easily she'd lied to me, how comfortable she'd been using our trip to reconnect with someone else. No, I said firmly. You didn't just make a mistake. You made a choice. And I'm making mine. We're done. She started to cry, but I closed the door, ending the conversation for good. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I spent more time with friends, threw myself into work, and even booked another trip, this time for myself. It felt empowering to reclaim what Ji had tried to take from my trust, my kindness, and my sense of self-worth. The most satisfying part of all this, hearing through the grapevine that her friend had ghosted her. After learning about the situation, it seems she wasn't just disloyal to me. She had a habit of burning bridges everywhere she went. Looking back, I'm grateful for the clarity the experience gave me. It taught me that loyalty and respect aren't optional in a relationship, they're the foundation. G showed me who she really was, and while it hurt to lose someone I thought I loved, it was worth it to protect my peace. If you've ever had to deal with betrayal like this, remember you deserve better. Trust your instincts, set your boundaries, and don't settle for someone who doesn't value.